George Garling. They had been taken together when George was Samantha's young man, and not very long before he had become another girl's young man. For George had proved faithless, and had given Samantha the mitten, and just about the time that he should have wedded her, had led her rival to the altar. Hence Samantha's loss of her good looks, and her gradual subsistence into angularity and old maidishness, and her settling down to hard, unlovely, sour views of life, and more particularly her diversion from the realms of love to those of avarice. Robbed of love, Samantha had turned her attention to the amassing of money. She had been fortunate in having, as it were, an open field. Up to the time of Samantha's first launching out, there had been but one shop in the village, a minute establishment kept by old nanny masters, whose trade was chiefly in pennyworths of sweets, pins, tape, thread, and similar small goods. The woman who wanted to buy anything beyond the meat which they got from the butcher, and the milk which they fetched from the farmer, trudged, basket on arm, to the market town 3 miles away once a week. Nanny Master's death, at the advanced age of 80-odd, gave Samantha Simmons, disappointed in her love affair and wanting something to do, an idea. She would set up a general shop and sell groceries and draperies. There should be no more need for the women to trail through the winter rain for matters which they could henceforth procure at home. Samantha had capital. Her father was just dead, and had left her the old house and a few £100. She could do whatever was in her mind, but being even then of a cautious nature, she had started in humble fashion, using one of the rooms of the old house for her shop, and trading in no more than bare necessaries. The venture prospered from the first. The stock was increased and developed. Samantha began to sell draperies as well as groceries, and at last she had built the structure which she herself and her customers thought so grand, and every lover of the picturesque loathed as an eyesore, and she had been obliged to employ an assistant and an errand boy. Catering at first for the poor folk, she now supplied everybody in the village, from the hall and the vicarage downwards, and after nearly 30 years of trading, she was what the farmers call a warm woman. But in the meantime she had earned the name of Skinflint. She kept an eye on the first and the last farthing. The child who handed his halfpenny over the counter for sweets received his exact equivalent, and no more. Whatever was weighed in the shining scales was weighed to the precise fraction. Whatever was measured at the drapery counter was measured to the 100th part of an inch. Samantha gave nothing away. If she had added an additional lollipop to the child's half-ounce, or let the yard measure slide in measuring the old woman's bit of flannel, she would have lost money. "Lose a farthing now and then," said Samantha, "and you'll be a pound poorer before very long." She carried out the same principle as regards credit. There was credit to be had in her shop from Monday morning to Friday night, but if there was not a prompt settlement by noon on Saturday, there was no credit for the following week. And there was no credit at any time for anybody who was not in full work. Samantha knew the circumstances of every family in the parish, and where there was unemployment, there was no trust. For folk who had no ready money during the week, and no prospect of paying up on Saturday, Samantha had no use. Let such, she said, go where they belonged, to the poorhouse or the relieving officer. It was a source of pride to her after 30 years trading that she had never made a bad debt, and she cared nothing when rude children, peering round corners, called Skinflint after her as she passed. Part 2. On a certain Wednesday morning, in the middle of a promising spring, a morning in which a glowing sun and a blue sky incited men to deeds of generosity, equal at any rate to those of nature, Samantha stood behind her grocery counter, grimly eyeing a labourer's wife, who had come in with her intention only too evidently written on